First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure. You guys are amazing. So
Oh no.
thank you so much. Uh,
We're surprised you wanted to come on. So thank you.
I know.
I sometimes don't want to come on.
Friday, Dan, Miriam.
Yeah.
Hello. So Miriam, your book, The 3G Cycle, talks about growth, grit, goals, and things like that. And it comes out of your experience in the healthcare industry. And so Jodah and I have some statistics we'd like to throw at you and just get your initial reaction. So Miriam, the first statistic is, sorry, we might have to do some editing on this episode.
Now it's all good. Free flow. Just go.
We are humans.
Yeah. Did you dunk yourself on the head? It's all, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I believe in perfection. No, sorry. Obviously, I'm doing this podcast. I used to, yeah. So first statistic. A 2021 study by the Washington Post and the Kaiser Foundation found that 55% of frontline healthcare workers reported feeling burnout that resulted in other mental health issues. What's your reaction to that?
Oh my gosh, I believe that they are probably underestimating those values.
Okay.
They are even higher if you study only physicians, and I assume that probably is the case if you individualize the groups.
Yeah.
That's yeah. That's a sad statistic too. So
that's a very sad one. Yes.
Yeah. I got this one here. The U.S. could face a shortage of 37,800 to 124,000 physicians by 2034, according to data released June 11th from Association of American Medical Colleges. Is this shortage something in reflection of people losing their sense of grit or lack of goals?
No, it's losing your soul while trying to do what you love. This is not because of COVID. Sadly, COVID just accelerated the process or make it more evident. But physicians and healthcare workers in general have been facing abuse, neglection, discrimination, and the correct name right now that many are using is moral injury. We don't feel that we are able to practice medicine in a way that we feel proud of ourselves as healthcare workers. And we are overwhelmed and we are, burnout. But it's not because of the hours. It's not because of the amount of patients. That's not what is breaking our soul. We used to do that before also with less technology and, less accommodations. But we were able to be with patients and have a human contact that right now is not existent.
Right. And that probably feeds into this next statistic, especially during the pandemic. I think this statistic comes from the pandemic. 69% of physicians reported experiencing depression.
Yes, and it's divided in a 30% approximately of being clinical depressed, meaning that probably they are taking medication at this point, and they are not necessarily in good shape to even probably practice. And another 30-something% that have symptoms of depression, which is not good either, to be sincere. And what I want to explain to those that do not understand mental illnesses, like the complete concept of what happens when you are depressed or you are burnout, is that in reality, beyond your own feelings and how you feel, and you don't feel good for sure, right? Your performance is affected. So if today you say that around 50% or more, right, and we know that is more, of people in an emergency room, in an urgent care, in an operation room, right, is burnout or depressed, you are going to have a neurosurgery, or you will be resuscitated, or you will be intubated, or decided if you will be treated with antibiotics or not, or whatever, you will go to have surgery or not, by someone that, by the definition of burnout, is unable to performance in his baseline, that is less motivated, and that is fatigued. So we are creating a real snowball of negative outcomes, not only for physicians. And that's why I am trying to bring this information to the community, because the person that is affected by this is a member of the community and their family members that go to the hospital and will be in the hands of people that has all the will to save their life, but that are sick. Burnout is right now, since a year or year and a half ago, considered a disease, and is now in the system of medical diseases, has a code as a medical disease. So we are having sick healthcare workers treating sick people.
Sounds like higher education.
It terrified me when I underwent under heart surgery several years ago. As I was going out and losing consciousness, I heard my heart surgeon say, "I'm so tired, I needed to drink 5 Rockstar drinks just before we got here." That was the last thing I heard.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. That's not what I heard.
You had me going. Well, I think, Miriam, it brings
I don't
us.
know about the drinks, but I'm sure that they were tired.
More than half, 55% of those out of work for more than 2 years say they have given up, while 21% of those out of labor force for 3 months or less say the same. So what does that say to you?
I mean, we are disappointed, and what you are seeing, and I refuse to do so, to be sincere, is you are seeing many physicians escaping the healthcare system or trying to do alternative jobs that are in some way connected to healthcare, but not directly. And you will see a big amount of doctors transforming in coaches, a big amount of doctors going purely to research or purely to academia, and many just doing real estate and other businesses, just because they still want to help, they still want to contribute, but they cannot work under the characteristics of this healthcare system that doesn't fit their don't even think about our well-being, our schedule, our balance. It doesn't fit our morality. When you go home at night, and that's my thermometer, and I feel that I didn't do my job correctly, when I have doubts about the decisions that I took because I was forced to decide, something, not because I decided to decide something, right? That's painful.
Yes, that's it. Yes, yeah. It's another one of those sad stats.
There was the final stat I just want to throw out. We don't have to talk about it because I think it's a good transition into your introduction, but I think it brings into, I was very surprised by this stat, and I know you had brought it up in the pre-interview, but I looked it up, was that suicide rates among physicians are double the national average for that population. And I think that speaks tremendously to some of the points you're trying to make in both your book and the other interviews and campaigns that you're on to raise awareness about mental health and in the healthcare industry.
Yes, and it's not only, and I want to say that even I am doing advocacy, of course, for healthcare workers. That's, they are my family. I belong to them. They belong to me. But the truth is that burnout, depression, mental health right now is a crisis that is affecting all of us, any industry, education for sure, and even entrepreneurship, parenthood. Yes, it's like no matter who you ask, where you ask, and someone will be burnout.
And I'm not saying that's not true. I'm saying I think your example in the healthcare industry provides us with a good case study that can be applied to other industries like higher education or public education or many other fields where we do have reports. And, I come from higher ed, so I can
It's
testify.
particularly scary as well. I mean, that's, you want to know that your physician is, especially, again, you don't want to hear 5 rock stars before you go underneath the knife. So, I mean, that's, again, that was a joke. That was a joke, universe, but
I
still.
know your doctor is going to watch this and sue you.
Yeah,
So, no, and he was fantastic. I had the best. I'll throw out his name at the end.
let
He
me
was
let
fantastic.
me tell you something. I have to I do primary care, right? And I am not in the OR or the ICU anymore, but I have to really show my respect for doctors that are under more stress than where I am, and that are still performing to save life and to, and to go and do a very, very complicated surgery or procedure under the circumstances, right? And I want to ask, if you guys allow me, I want to ask the community to create some empathy, and I hope these numbers and these stories bring some empathy to the community, and they understand that doctors, nurses, etc., in the healthcare force, we are humans. We have problems, we have sicknesses, we have kids that maybe are suffering, or parents that are not doing well, and bills to pay, and then we go to a system that is very hard to work in, and our real reward comes from seeing patients being well, and that's why we went to medical school, and having a patient, and I am lucky to say that I experience that almost daily, having a patient that say thank you with a smile in the face, or ask for how I am doing, or ask for my kids, or share a story of how good they feel right now, and they care about me as a human, not only as a robot that is prescribing.
Wait,
Help
I thought of
a lot.
God. I thought you had God complexes, isn't that?
Oh
I
yeah,
thought
no, I lost that several years ago. I received a lot of slaps in my face to, and to realize that I am not God, sadly.
So you don't listen to that Alec Baldwin speech from that movie over and
I
over
love
again?
it. I love it. I
I
absolutely.
am God.
I
Second guessed. You ask me if I have a God complex? Let me tell you something. I am God.
I adore that movie, and with my husband we watched that scene several times. It's like,
Isn't it
it's so
great? Yeah.
fun. But they train us like that. I
Yeah.
remember I don't know if first day or first week of medical school in Peru, not even in the US, where we are talking about 30 years ago. So society was a little different. Also, in Peru, is more conservative. So being a woman in medical school was not necessarily very well accepted. And these old-fashioned doctors, professors, they will come. And I remember this guy clearly saying that we didn't belong there, that we were supposed to be washing clothes and cooking and getting pregnant, and
Mhm.
and that only the guys belong there, and that even some of them they didn't, because this is just for those that are close to God in earth, right? And that we will be slowly disappearing till only the best will stay. And that thing changed your mind. Now you are in a competition 24/7 to show not only that you belong to medical school, but that you belong to medical school being a woman. So,
Right.
believe me, you want to be God. You really want to be God, and you want to have superpowers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let me take a pause here and cough so everybody can hear that.
Okay.
And I'd like to just do an introduction to the show here and introduce you. And first off, say thank you for joining us. I can already tell we're going to have a great conversation. Hey, everybody out there, Sense and Signal audience. We are joined today with Dr. Miriam. I'm going to try to say your last. I should have asked this for the show, but I'm going to make a stellar attempt here. Zylberglait.
Perfect. 100.
Yay. And then last name being Lisigurski.
Awesome. There you are.
Lisigurski or Lisigurski?
Lisigurski.
Okay.
In the Spanish version, I guess.
Yeah, I was trying to be a
You
little more.
made
Yeah,
my
exactly.
dad very proud right now because my dad's last name is always, erased, but thank you for, bringing it here.
I gave it my best. Excuse me. Sorry, folks. You are a triple board physician in internal medicine, geriatrics, and obesity medicine with extensive clinical academic experience. You are interested in the areas of well-being, burnout, mental health, and leadership development. Your recent book, which we will be getting into. You've completed a fellowship in leadership education development, AAMC, and certification as a mental health ally. And training as a physician, physician wellness advocate. You've been recognized for multiple achievements, including Mentor of the Year, AMWA 2021, and American College of Physicians Young Achiever 2017. Originally from Peru, Dr. Z has two awesome sons, a caring husband, and a supportive family. Her dream is to help others achieve lives full of joy, meaning, and well-being. And so I think that's why we're here today to kind of discuss this. Welcome to Sense and Signal, everybody out there. Welcome to the Sense and Signal. Dan, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe. And Miriam, in hearing your story, a lot of women have experienced, I think especially, a lot of women have experienced discouragement from pursuing STEM fields like medicine. And so when I think about your book, The 3G Cycle, which is about grit and goals and growth, I think you're kind of an embodiment of that through just that story right there. How did you find the motivation and the grit? Did you kind of align grit with motivation? How did you find that to set your goals to become a physician and grow in that role?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure. You guys are amazing. So thank you so much.
We're surprised you wanted to come on. So thank you.
I
sometimes don't want to come on.
Your energy, it's amazing. Thank you. To be sincere, my life has been full of challenges in different types of and different colors and different flavors, but I experimented a lot of challenges in my life. And for some reason, I have been very resilient, and I never knew why or how. And this idea of the 3G, right, the goal, grit, growth, came really during COVID when I was trying to understand my process. How do I get to be resilient? And I started to kind of go inside of me, do this retro, this introspective journey and find out who I am and how I do this. Because right now, COVID is very serious. I really need to do it right. It's like I cannot give it to good luck. I need to be resilient for sure. So what I understood from my previous experience is that I don't see life linear. I see life like a video game. I can assume that you guys know better about video games than myself. I don't play with video games, but but our kids do. And you go level after level, right? And you never really die. You collect these, diamonds or coins or hearts, and you have other options and other opportunities, and then you keep moving, and then you call your friend, and it's like, how do I go through this level? And you can do it this. Or now the kids are smarter, they Google it, they find in YouTube or whatever, and finally they are able to, after many attempts, go to level 2 and then level 3 and keep going. And for me, life is exactly like that. It's like, you fail and you don't die, nothing wrong happens. I procrastinated this weekend on signing books and sending them, and I was feeling miserable. And then I published something saying like, the world continues, everybody is alive, nothing wrong happened because I didn't sign some books, and I stopped. So I believe that is the perspective that I have about life. And I start with goals because goals set my intention, right? Is what do I want to achieve? And if you think about what do you want to achieve, is you need to be a little more, let's say, professional in the way that you set that goal, right? And intentional and mature, because I cannot set that a goal, I want to go to the moon without a rocket. That will not happen, right? So you have to set goals in a realistic, with a realistic approach, having a plan, deadlines, and etc. And then you go to
Miriam, can I
yes.
interject real quick with a question here? In my industry, we have sort of two sort of philosophies on creation. There's probably more than that, but these are the two that I've highlighted. There's the design, which is sort of goal directed, right? Design methodology. You're going to design something and think of a design and kind of shoot for that. Then there's an engineering methodology, which is you create something and discover what its goal is. Like it's just general random exploration. I have no intentionality behind it. And I've come to believe that there's neither right or wrong. It depends on the circumstances. But I didn't hear a lot about that engineering aspect in your book, which is perfect. Although maybe I missed it in the chapters. But I was curious, is there a place for this sort of other notion where I don't have a goal, but as Picasso said, or somebody said, like, action is sort of just start doing something. What's your thought in that space versus kind of, or am I making a distinction that doesn't exist?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will tell you where it goes. It goes when the catalyst of your life start, attacking you or being present. It's like you plan a goal, right? And how many times, and I believe I used in the book the example of the Ferrari. You are 18 and you want your Ferrari, your red Ferrari, right? And suddenly you discover through life that, oh my gosh, now you are married, you have 5 kids, and the Ferrari doesn't fit you, but you need now a van, right? Because you need to put your kids. And that was not your goal. It was you inventing a new way to. So yes, it's what you are saying is so appropriate, because yes, we set goals and sometimes we will achieve them, right? But sometimes the catalyst that will be in front of us in life, the circumstances, right, reality will really be in front of us and force us to be creative and to rebuild our plans based on what we have in front. And that's why I always finish with grow, not with goal. You don't achieve at the end. You don't close your cycle achieving your goal necessarily. You may be achieving another different goal, or you may be just, growing, which is the third year, right? Grow. You will.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about your model, Miriam, is that cycle aspect to it. Again, bringing a model from higher education, I'm kind of thinking that cybernetic model where you kind of do something, you collect some data, you assess, and it becomes like this feedback loop. So you're constantly changing.
We call that design thinking in the UX design world.
Yes,
I mean, it's all. Yeah. It comes in all different forms in engineering, design, in education, and I'm sure in the medical field, because you're wanting to grow. Yeah, and so I appreciate the fact that you're kind of framing this in a nonlinear way, like a series of cycles. And you talk in your book about Noel Birch's competence cycle, and you did some research on this kind of these frameworks that are built around cycles. Can you talk a little bit more about that and the research you did to inform your work?
The truth is that cycles exist forever, right?
Right.
And we see them in front of us in many forms. Like if we think about the hormones, for example, our hormones in the body work in cycles, and we have positive feedback, negative feedback to control the way that we control the hormones in our body. Even if you think about diabetes, for example, how your glucose go up or down is a cycle inside of our body. If you think about reproduction, right? Women will have their period every more or less 28 days. Again, a cycle, day and night, years. Right.
Yeah, that's what I also appreciate about it is like it's kind of grounded in nature, right? The cycle of the weather, the seasons,
Yes. And for
turn, right?
yes, and for engineering, right, or for evaluation of processes. And you will see that in my book, I adapted things that I don't use because I am not an MBA, but MBAs will use to run, evaluations of companies or re-engineering or etc. to your own life, because in some way we are the results of processes, right? We take decisions, we maybe going in the right direction or not. We need to stop for a moment, evaluate the results of our decisions and actions, and rethink if we continue or we do certain changes, and we keep going in this loop of feedbacks that are positive or negative in our life. It's the way that we get to learn. It's a simple, if you think about this, using what was already being used in business, right, and other industries, but assuming that our life is the most important business that we have.
I feel like these ideas are cyclical themselves, in the sense that they're revealed and then they're hidden again, and then they're revealed and then they're hidden again. And it just seems like you can go back and you can see people, and it's like for some reason something makes us lose them, and then they're revealed by a book like yours. And I want to pause for a second because we're going on a great path here. But I'd like to ask you, talk about your book, the book you've written. It's not the reason why we're here, but it's definitely one of the catalysts that brought us here. Using the language. Tell us about your book for a second, and kind of going back to Dan's question about you being in the environment, being a woman in the environment. What catalyzed you to create this book? And tell us what is this book about?
So I want to say that this book for me is a collective journey that I started by myself and for wrong reasons. I was very upset with COVID, with the healthcare system, with the numbers of suicide in residents and medical students and doctors, people in general. I was absolutely frustrated, and I was in the process of discovering that even I was trying to help others, really I was the one that needed help because I was as burned out as everybody else. And part of this, I instead of me having an elegant tantrum, which in some way I was having, like I was furious, I decided to study and learn and develop new skills, and being in podcasts and writing articles until the opportunity of the book came in front of me, and I decided to take it. But the idea was to vent. My idea was to destroy the healthcare system and tell everybody how bad is everything and
I've
who
been
is
there.
guilty
I've
of
been
what,
there.
right? You have been there.
Mini industry in my head many a times, going to bed. How will I destroy this?
I've written many an editorial to the newspaper as well.
Thank God, I was past my life, right? And during my writing process, this started to be really a healing process, and I started to understand that I am not that angry person. That doesn't represent me, and doesn't represent my goals either. What I want to do is to help, not to destroy. And if you see the book Burnout, which is the monster, that's a chapter in the book, is one chapter from 21 extras that are actually a positive chapters, right, of hope and how we do things in a different way, how we heal and how we prevent to get to the point where I was, which was not very healthy. And I use help. And you were asking me about grit, and I want to take a second to answer that. Grit, yes, it's motivation, it's this energy inside of you. But what I learned with the book is that grit comes from others too. When you are down, when you are tired, when you don't find the reason to keep going, mentors, friends, inspirational leaders, family will be that grit, will help you to find that grit again. And that's very important. And coming from the world of medicine, right, and from a world where everything is competition, you have to be got in air, you cannot make mistakes, you cannot ask for help, you cannot feel afraid. Admitting that you cannot achieve everything by your own, that you need the help and the support of others, right, is really a painful moment, a very valuable moment, a big transformation. But it's very painful because I have been living decades of my life in a bit different, seeing a different perspective of who I am and what I represent, to discover that I don't have superpowers, that I cannot achieve everything by myself, that I need help, that I am suffering, and that this modality doesn't fit me, and it's not fitting anybody else either, right? We need to change.
Because I had a conversation recently about where I am today and where I came from. And by no means did I have the hardest life in the world, because, of course, being a young white male in the United States of America in the 80s. But as separate that in its own world, one can argue that I was raised in an environment that didn't necessarily teach me the values of dedication, of focus, of education, of various things that has one be able to succeed, to get stuff done. I always kind of joke that me and my sister, we were coyotes. We were classic 70s California kids.
He's still kind of feral too, I have to say.
I am feral. Look at my hair. I am still feral. I wash pretty regularly. I almost flunked out of high school. I was a ditch 10th grade, barely, and one would think, oh, Jodah just doesn't care about education. He just doesn't care. But then fast forward, I go to college and I continue my education day. I love education. And I was talking to somebody and they said, how did you get from point A to point B? He said, there's something about you that made you want to. And I said, luck. And he said, what? How luck? And I go, well, I happened to run into a friend of mine who's also no. Although well, that's debatable. But yes, no, I ran into another friend, Nick Morrell, and at school, who was also a ditcher, and he told me, hey man, there's this great school in California. They have these things called continuation high schools, and he says, I'm going to this school, and where you go, and it's where all the kind of almost dropouts are. The GED people might go. I don't exactly know why they set them up. They're smaller class sizes. The teachers are more dedicated. I got to be very lucky because I got in the school where they had hired 3 very young, they're all in their 20s, highly motivated, highly skilled, highly goal-centric, highly focused on making all 80 kids in this school have meaning. They set up, it was in the school that I ran my first 2 marathons because of them. They said, they focused. Every morning they had a farm, and we focused on making sure this farm was set up right. The chickens were fed. They gave us a sense of dedication and duty. And I literally, if you saw a pivot in my life, that it pivoted right there. Was I ready to receive it? It was, but fortune. So how much is fortune? I feel so lucky that happened to me. It could have not happened to me. And who knows? Maybe I would have been the next Elon Musk without it. I don't know. But most likely not. I probably would have been working at a dead end job that I just never excelled out of. It's because they tapped into something, but thereby the grace of God, they catalyzed it.
Yeah,
how do you reconcile that fact?
I will have to show this interview to my dad, because that's the big discussion that I have with my dad. I always say to my dad that I am where I am and I am doing things that I am doing because of good luck. And he's always telling me that good luck does not exist. That what exists is your grit, your intention, right? To see things in front of you, to accept things that are in front of you, that this is not good luck. And this is the continuous, it's like every week we have a good reason to have a discussion about this.
We should bring him on. We should bring him on with you today.
Yeah. Well, I want to offer a third alternative. That I hear in both of your stories, and that's constructing good systems. And one of the things that we've been talking about a lot on this show is systems thinking and leadership. And when I think of that school that you went to, Jodah, that is the school system recognizing there is a need for students in that population and creating an environment where they can thrive. And that's kind of a systems 100%. Approach. And when I think of the healthcare system, right, and its dysfunction, that is a dysfunctional system. If it's driving people to the point of burnout, then it's not a system that's working. And what can we do systematically to correct it? Because it's one thing for me to say, okay, I can change myself and focus on goals, grit, and growth. But how do you apply that to changing the systems that are oppressing us?
Can I make my one correction on what you said? Maybe less a healthcare system, more a healthcare system. Is that more appropriate?
Ooh.
Yeah, we change. And regarding the healthcare system, the healthcare system is not a system because really it's broken. It's being managed by people that never confronted the pain of a patient, afraid because now he knows that he's having cancer and will not survive, or being afraid of going to the to surgery, feeling that he has 3-4 kids waiting outside that may not have a dad or a mom after that, or that they have to be discharged from the hospital and they don't have the money to pay for the appointment outside the hospital, and who knows what will happen. So it's very easy to create, regulations when you are in a comfortable office, absolutely protected from human contact and from pain and from reality, and create these unsensitive protocols that are made for, for numbers, are really numerical, but have not heart and have not soul, and therefore are not for humans.
Can I continue with Dan's question a little bit based off what you just said? He brought up this notion of systems, and your book is about these 3 Gs. And I'm reading the book mostly. I get, to me, it's about it's an introspection book about kind of identifying things about yourself and actuating in a world that might not be necessarily sympathetic to your happiness. And how do you reconcile with that? But there is also that boundary between just dealing with yourself, and then, like you said, then there's this universe that also you need to be sympathetic towards, right? So there's this cross sympathy. But sticking with the systems thing, is there a story here that kind of that weaves the 3 Gs in with like leadership and organizations in the healthcare industry, specifically organizations? Is there a place where leadership should care about the 3 Gs? Do they have a place to say, I want to invest in this concept and it's going to be good for my bottom line? And how do we infect or affect it with these concepts into the organization to make a more emotionally sustainable place, and maybe hopefully cost?
And I love your question, because really I was in that direction. I was trying to set the circumstances and why it's possible, right? And the truth is that if you will start working in collaboration, and you will start using any system, doesn't have to be the 3G, but any system that brings the humanity, right, and the reality from physicians, nurses, and any other healthcare worker to these comfortable offices, we will have a better healthcare system. This is just the result of a separation of power. I am not even thinking that the individuals in these comfortable offices are bad individuals. To be sincere, I don't think so. Probably some are, but they don't have the knowledge. And it's time for us to, merge powers and merge knowledge and get, the people that needs to be taking decisions all together around the table to really focus in what is important. I understand that we need to produce money. I mean, I pay bills too, but cannot be, under circumstances that compromise the well-being of patients and the community and the well-being of the physicians and other healthcare workers. And regarding why the 3G cycle was created as a work for individuals initially and not necessarily on systems, I will tell you why. Because sadly, I don't think that right now we will be able to apply any re-engineering in the healthcare system, because I don't think that the system is ready for that. There is a lot of power right now that needs an egos that needs to be removed or at least contained. But in the meantime, right, while I believe that the cure for this is in curing the system, and I agree, and I interviewed Jennifer Moss, who wrote a book about burnout, a very recognized book about burnout, and she was focusing on the system. I actually had this conversation. It's like, do you think that I am crazy when I focus on the human being, in the person? She told me no, because this will take too much time. And in the meantime, what we are seeing is 46,000 individuals die by suicide every year in this country. So I cannot wait for the system to improve in the next 10 years. We will have 460,000
But don't systems... So there's systems, right? But systems are composed of people, and individual leaders at different strata of an organization can make a difference. They can make change. And one thing you shared a story in your book about Dr. Deula John.
Yeah.
And you hired her, and you had a really interesting story. And I think maybe you can share some of that story about Dr. Deula John and how that can apply to how we can change systems through hiring and thinking outside the box when we're recruiting people and bringing them into organizations.
Oh my gosh, I still remember like yesterday. She crossed my door. I was interviewing residents or medical students for a resident position, and she crossed the door and she appeared saying like, ta-da! And really, like, I am not lying. That was the way that she crossed that door, with this big smile in the face and full of joy and full of greed. And I knew that I wanted her. And after having a conversation with her and knowing that she was compromising her family because she was ready to separate herself from her two boys, and move wherever she needed so she can become the physician that she wanted to be. I had these mixed feelings. I didn't want to separate her from the kids, but I wanted her to achieve her dream. So we took her, and we saw her during the following years, 3 years that I know her, more than 3 years now. We saw her going through difficult times, very difficult times, not only being separated from the family, but at some point she lost someone that she really loved in a very traumatic circumstances. And I remember that I called her. I brought her to the office and I told her, like, you should stop. Don't work here. Like, have a pause. Like, take your time. And the system was not so friendly to allow that. And she will be compromising her possibility to graduate on time and go back home with her kids. So she decided to keep working in the same place where someone that she loved died, exactly the same hospital, the same emergency where someone that she loved died. And she did it with professionalism, with love, with greed, right? I have tears in my eyes. It represents so much, right? It represents so much of what we can do with our inner power, and but at the same time, how the systems are not humanistic enough to provide the support to individuals that not only need it but deserve it, right? Right now, she's a successful fellow. She's doing a specialty now, a super specialty now. She is close to her family and her kids, and she's doing amazing. And I believe that she is the biggest demonstration of the power that we have inside of our heart, and the things that we can achieve if we want, if we work hard, if we surround ourselves with people that will be, cheerleading for you in the times that are difficult are in front of you.
Miriam, with that story, and it is a heartbreaking story. Listening to that, everybody I think can have empathy, because I'm sure everybody's had that moment where you felt like it was going to break you, like you were not going to survive that moment. For me, it was when I met Dan But later on in life, there were other bigger issues though that that could have broke me possibly. That seemed dire.
I'll still break you, Jodah. I'll still break you.
He's breaking me now as we speak. But my question is, we have here in Portland and along the West Coast here, and I'm sure worldwide, there is a homeless epidemic. And I don't really want to get into that topic necessarily, but clearly that is a group of people mostly who are broken, right? They're broke. They went, and your friend had a choice to make. I think it was a choice, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe there's something internally inside us. I don't know, and that's kind of my question. What is that internal reserve? Is there something to tap into, whether you have it or not, that you can then find it?
It's basically asking, what is grit, right?
Grit.
What is
I
grit?
think what
exactly.
is grit? Good question. Good point.
I believe that is more than what is grit. I will say what is PTG, which is post-traumatic growth. That
Never heard that term
something
before.
that I learned from my sister. She is positive psychology, and she learned the term. If you think about what the word, probably the most common word that we mentioned during COVID was resilience. We need to be resilient. Everybody's resilient, right? Which means the ability, the capacity to bounce back after adversity, right? You are in a baseline. This is where you are living. A stress comes, or trauma, or a bad situation. You, of course, react to that, right? Why not? That's normal. We are humans. And at some point, you can come back to your baseline. You recover by yourself, with support of people, with medication, depending the situation, but you recover. Positive psychology brings another concept that for me is really what the demonstration of what happened with Dayula is happening to me and happening to many of us right now. You cannot imagine going through 2 years of COVID and what COVID represented, and then just bounce back to the baseline. I mean, you cannot be exactly the same 2 years later. I mean, we that will be shameful, right? So positive psychology brings post-traumatic growth as the idea that, yes, you go down, you are bouncing back, but you use that adversity and you use the things that happen to you or around you, right, as an opportunity to learn and to grow. So now you are in a better situation, right, in a better version of yourself, with more skills, with more experience. And what is very interesting about this concept, post-traumatic growth, is that it's based on five situations or 5 components that need to exist, not coexist, but at least you need one of them. Spirituality, which doesn't mean to be religious, but means to at least know who you are, find your meaning, your purpose in life, right? Social interaction, have support from others, or decide to support others, or coexist with others during this situation. Knowing your inner strength, so recognizing what you are able to do, and in some way applauding yourself, like, yay, I can do this, right? I did it. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And the other 2 are related to the ability to be resilient and to learn from adversity, to use adversity in your favor. So I don't necessarily think that this is pure grit, because grit is this energy, this fuel that we have, but this is beyond grit. This is the ability to see this catalyst in life and don't feel like a victim of your life, but feel like, okay, what is this about? What can I do with this?
Well, there's a lot of what you've just shared, Miriam, that I love. And I love this concept of post-traumatic growth syndrome. And I also like what you have to say about victimhood, right? Like, we're not necessarily victims. We have the capacity to overcome the obstacles that we face. And we have to interact with our environment. I think our previous guest, Brad Topliff, indicated something like that a couple episodes ago about you're a partner in the environment that you're creating. And so you're not necessarily always a victim to it, which I think is a good thing for people to hear in our day and age where like victimization is kind of like de rigueur.
And we have our phrases, right? Takes two to tango. You know, I mean, we have things in the system that suggested already.
Yeah, but I want to, yes. And getting back to that post-traumatic growth syndrome concept, I think in this as we come out of this COVID time and we're in late stage COVID or post-COVID, whatever you want to call it, I see a need to think about that. Like we did go through this traumatic 3 years of isolation and trauma from the media and being homebound and, and so forth. And when I look at students now, I feel like the student population has changed. You can see it in the students coming back to campus. They're not the same students that were on campus before the pandemic. They've changed in substantial ways. And I can't even really articulate how yet. I just know I see it. And we have to figure out a way to turn that trauma that's happened over the last 3 to 4 years into an opportunity for growth. And so how do we help younger folks who might need that support because mental health for the younger generations is on the rise too. So how do we help them embrace this post-traumatic growth mentality to find some resilience to move forward and adapt to the new world?
I will tell you what I am doing with my kids because they really suffered during these couple of years. First of all, we started to get educated. My husband decided to find how to learn about how to be a good parent. And this doesn't apply to all the ages, right? But this is just an example of how you decide to turn negative into positive, right? We noticed that we were not able to deal with the situation, that we didn't know what to do, right? So first of all, you need to be aware. And I believe that everything starts with self-awareness. What is happening? What is wrong? What can get better, right? Where are the gaps? So identify the problem, inside or outside of or both. Then to take action, right? To set the goal. What do I want to improve and how? And in this case, my husband brought this idea of let's get to, educated. So we started to do parenting classes and we started to set our kids to camps and places where they can interact with other kids and relearn how to socialize in an environment that was relatively controlled because they were really secluded for 2 years. So going back to reality, they didn't know. And my little one was 5 when he got secluded. So he was just started, to socialize with others when he was suddenly in another place, at home, like a jail. So that was very helpful. And the other thing that I am noticing that is happening at school and in these special groups for my kids that is working is that they are learning to use their difficulties and transform them in words. So my kids will come and tell me, I am frustrated. This is not fair. I feel afraid of this, which, I mean, when you talk about kids that are 7 and 9 right now, it's very sophisticated, right? Many adults will not be able to express how they feel in an open forum and ask for help. And I feel that in general, what we need to create is, number one, safe environments. So those that are suffering are able to express their concerns and to ask for help, reduce a stigma where we are, right? Offer the opportunity to get the help. Opening in a school, right, an open office for counseling or someone, right, or create an opportunity for mentors or coaches or kids that are bigger, supporting kids that are smaller. So we have this idea of I am not alone in this, sharing our own experiences. And I believe that the best thing that happened to me with my residents. And right now I see it every time that I go and I give a lecture or a conference about these topics. And I see it in my home is being vulnerable and being transparent. Yes, I had a bad day, Yes, I have this list of things in my CV, right? And look very important. Who cares? I have a heart and I am not feeling good and I am sad and I am frustrated. I'm afraid. And what happens after that, this is a magical power, because the truth is that opens the door for others to communicate and to feel free and safe to say, oh my goodness, I'm not feeling good either. Thank you so much for letting me know. So now I can tell you how I feel.
So I know we're coming to the end of our hour. When somebody picks up your book, the 3G cycle, what do you want them to take away? How do you want this book to change the world?
Oh, first of all, I want them to know that this is a very weird book in some way because because the book has no start and no ending. And I did that in purpose for two reasons. Number one, because if I am writing a book anti-stress, right, because in some way that's what it is, to show you how to live your life with less stress and more happiness and joy. So I didn't want to force people to read it completely and feel like they failed because they didn't pass the 3 chapters because they were very busy in their life. So there is no guilt involved in reading this book. They can pick any chapter in any order, just read it, finish it, leave it there for 3 more months and catch the book back on the time that they want and just keep reading, and nothing will be missed because the chapters, even they are interconnected, they don't have a real specific number and therefore no order, except for the first two initials where they set the kind of the expectations and the way to navigate the book. And the second reason is because I want people to go through this with and make it their own journey. Life is so different for all of us. We are so different. And what I want to give others, right, or teach others with this book is that we are the owners of our own life, that we can make our own future and our own present, that there are skills that we may be missing or we may have, perspectives that are not the best for the things that we are living, but that doesn't make us to be, in a serious crisis or be failures, right, or losers, that we don't need to do everything that everybody else does to achieve well-being or success, and not everything will work for them if it works for me. So this book presents different colors and flavors of techniques, from a Buddhist monk to a Wall Street person and a professional athlete sharing stories. So at least one of these 30 different individuals, plus me and my kids, someone will be close to you, close to your heart, close to your story. Right. Pick up what you need from the book, and what is not for you, leave it there. Maybe you will need it 20 years later and it will be waiting for you.
Yeah. It sounds like the form of the book matches the content, or like the content, you've designed the book so that the content and the form actually go together. So that's amazing. So how do people get in contact with you? If somebody wants to reach out to you, Miriam, how do they do that?
So I am only on LinkedIn, and that's for the peace of my family. We have to select between a lot of social media and being followed by internet versus spending time with my husband, my family, my kids. So one only LinkedIn. So I appear there.
Nice.
Like me. Yes, I'm practicing what I preach. So like Miriam Zylberglait or Dr. C, please contact me. I am super happy to connect. And my book is on Amazon, and they can find it there as a 3G cycle. And I would love to hear the feedback and the ideas and the stories. I'm learning from others. This is a journey that I am sharing with others. I am also learning, I am also growing, and I am also trying to heal in this process.
Yeah. And and for the audience out there, give us your feedback here as well. Let Miriam know what your thoughts are, and let Dan and I know about your thoughts are. And so we'd love to hear from you as well on this particular show. So
Yeah, and we'll have all of your contact information and a link to the book in the show notes as well, Miriam. So it's been wonderful having you on. You're so full of enthusiasm and energy. I would love to have you on again. And and again, an excellent book. It was definitely mind-opening and got me thinking about cycles and grit and goals. And I love this idea of the post-traumatic
growth
opportunity.
Yeah,
growth.
I like that terminology. Good terminology.
It's awesome, right? It's changed my life forever. That term changed my life forever.
Yeah. No, I want to look into more of that. That's for sure.
Definitely maybe a topic for further conversation.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody. Have a good day.
Bye everyone. Thanks, Miriam.
Thank you so much, guys. You are amazing.
Okay, I will be putting.
Oh, you're amazing.
No, yeah, you're amazing.
You're amazing.
You're all amazing. This is an amazing.